Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the kind introduction, Naomi. I would like to sketch briefly the project that we're carrying out on extreme beliefs at the Free University to give you a sense of where we're coming from and what we might be heading towards. So some of these images that I'm going to show you might seem familiar to you. So this was back in 2019 in New Zealand, Christchurch, where a right-wing extremist attacked people at two different mosques, shooting more than 50 people. And it is clear by now that he acted so at least partly in virtue of certain extremist beliefs that he embraced, certain racist beliefs as well, and other right-wing extremist beliefs. But we also encounter extremist beliefs in different contexts. So here is an example from a particular school in this city in Amsterdam, the Haga School, that was almost shut down at various points because the idea was that its students were indoctrinated with Salafi jihadism, with Wahhabism, with various views that we would deem Islamist extremism nowadays. So also in education, extreme beliefs can play an important role. And the third and final example will also be familiar to you. So this was January 6th, 2021, the Capitol riot that was driven by a variety of factors, but also, of course, including various kinds of extreme beliefs, and in particular conspiracist beliefs, such as QAnon beliefs, but also right-wing extremist beliefs. So extreme beliefs of various kinds all over the place, and that is what we study in our project at the Free University. And the basic rationale is this: there's been a lot of empirical work and historical work on fundamentalist action and other kinds of extreme action, like extremist, terrorist, and conspiracies. But there's been less attention in the literature for the underlying beliefs. Of course, these actions are not driven only by beliefs, but often they are at least partially driven by beliefs. And to the extent that there has been attention for those underlying beliefs, it's been empirical and historical, and very little conceptual and normative work has gone into this. And we believe that this is a fruitful area where philosophical but also interdisciplinary work can be done. So that was the original idea behind the project. And we use different methods in the project. At least the philosophers do use these methods of conceptual analysis and engineering of concepts, reflective equilibrium when it comes to normative and ethical questions. And we apply these ideas developed in the ivory tower of academia to specific case studies to see whether they actually work and get some feedback. So that was the idea of the project. And the way it was set up originally was to develop an account of particular fundamentalist belief for individuals, for groups, what obligations people have regarding their beliefs, and under which conditions they are excused for that, for instance, by indoctrination or ignorance or other kinds of excusing conditions, so as to develop a theory of responsibility for and rationality of fundamentalists and other kinds of extreme beliefs. However, as we started the project, unexpectedly various more empirical people also joined, because they thought this philosophical approach had something to offer, and they love the exchange between philosophy and church work. So these are just some examples: extremist rhetoric on Instagram, in Amsterdam and Mumbai, so field work, de-radicalization in churches in the Levant. So that would be with qualitative research or interviews with former ISIS members, for instance, in Syria and Lebanon. Work on belief policies and conspiracy theory, so what are the underlying belief policies, fanaticism and political emotions. Ruth is working on that, who's sitting right there. Extremism and deep fakes, and other kinds of phenomenological or empirical work. And that led to the diverse research team that we have nowadays, quite a few whose members are here nowadays. And you will encounter many of these people either in this room or online. Now, as we started working on this, at some point, so the original idea was to bring philosophical tools to a largely empirical and historical debate, but I think at some point we started to notice something like a pattern. And I think the project has shifted a little bit towards, so to say, lifting up this pattern and exploring it and defending it and applying it. And that pattern is basically this: that if we look at 5 extreme phenomena, so fanaticism, fundamentalism, conspiracy theorizing, extremism, and terrorism, overlapping phenomena in reality. And if we look at various fields that study these phenomena, such as sociology, psychology, law, international relations, religious studies, theology, philosophy, we see elements of a new approach arising. So very often in the past, these phenomena used to be explained away, for instance, by appeal to economic factors. People embrace extreme beliefs because they grow up in poverty, for instance. Or in the 70s and 80s, these people are suffering from psychiatric diseases or mental illnesses and so on. And there are problems with a lot of those explanations. So I think nowadays we see a new paradigm arising, and the goal of the project, I think, has become the primary goal to flesh out this paradigm and apply it and explore its challenges. And that paradigm, I believe, has 5 elements. The first is the idea that we need to bring these 5 extreme domains in conversation with one another. We get to better understand conspiracy theorizing if we also explore it in relation to the literature on extremism, for instance. This is one example. The normalcy hypothesis, a lot of these people are normal, rational people, just like you and me, not suffering any more from psychiatric diseases, for instance, or physical diseases than an average person. Overall, for many, not always, there are exceptions. Inherent normativity. So the study, even the empirical study of these phenomena, is inherently normative. Crucial values and principles are underlying our research. If only, for instance, how we conceptualize something like conspiracy theorizing. There's been a lot of third-person work, so economic and social explanations, but we also need to take the first-person perspective into account. So what do extreme believers themselves say about why they hold these extreme beliefs? Their narratives, their reasons, their beliefs, their religiosity. So their perspective. And we need the conversation between these different disciplines, however difficult that can be at times, to fully understand, explain, predict, and prevent these extreme beliefs. So that's very briefly the kind of the core tenets of this new paradigm. And what we're doing nowadays, so we've got 5 workshops in this project, and they correspond now to 5 edited volumes in a series with OUP that we're editing, and there are also two monographs in the series. And of course now we're with a 4th one, extreme beliefs and responsibility. So that's a bit about the background of the project. If you have any questions about this, please follow up during the breaks or over lunch or dinner. That was it. Thank you.